I mean, looking at the headlines from the newspapers, it's so depressing, every single story that is here. But we'll see how we can sort out what's going on in our country. And joining us for another conversation when it comes to a lot of the issues that we're dealing with is Mr. Laolu Akande, host of Inside Sources, right here on Channels Television, and former presidential aide. Thanks so much for being with us on the program.
Good morning, good to see you.
Okay, so our hearts are breaking, right? Everyone is a little upset. While the political machine is moving full speed ahead, the humans who are expected to vote in those elections are dealing with an insecure environment. We're looking at our children and the elderly in situations where we wish they couldn't be in places like that. It's terrifying to think of a child in the hands of kidnappers or terrorists or bandits. And it does feel like it's spreading. Again, government abducts students in Zamfara. This focus on our children in schools. But there are protests, as expected, and we're seeing communities really upset, screaming at the top of their lungs. Even some communities say they've paid ransom, that they came together as a community and paid ransom, but people are still in custody of those kidnappers, and they're saying that those kidnappers are telling them that they want to speak to the government. What is going on?
You know, reflecting on the situation, one of the things that really gives me real fear and worry that I don't remember ever since we've been having to deal with this insecurity, this banditry, this kidnapping and all of those stuff. I don't remember any instance, I imagine maybe there's one or two, where we've even had any kind of rescue indeed. I mean, I don't know whether you can recall.
Whenever we're scripting, it's always interesting. Whenever we're scripting to kidnappings or banditry, we don't know what word to use. We don't know whether to say they were ransomed or released or rescued. So it's always a conversation, even in newsrooms across this country. What do we say? What happened here? Were they ransomed, rescued, or released?
We've not had any, I cannot remember any dramatic rescue at all, you know, since we've been following these issues. Maybe there's one or two. But the point I'm trying to make is that when you speak to the experts, the security agencies, whether it's in the military or in the police, or those who have strategic understanding of security, they say to us that these things, that it's just because we're not serious. That's what they keep saying.
Who is not serious?
You know, well, okay, so it's essentially the political leadership that, you know.
The president.
The president sits on top of it.
Okay.
So the president must take the responsibility, but it goes beyond the president. It goes to the National Assembly. It goes to the state governors. You know, and the security experts say that these things can be done. We can sort ourselves out. What has happened now, Kayla, is that there's a systemic breakdown. You know, and Nigerians are paying the tax of fear. That's a fair tax in the country. You know, if you are a parent, you are paying a fair tax on your children. You know, can they go to school? Can they not go to school? What is going to happen? Is the playground safe? Is the school safe? Big fair tax. There's a fair tax even among farmers who cannot go to the farms, you know, so they have to choose whether they have to be hungry or be safe. It's terrible. And it goes all the way over and over and over again. The system has broken down, and this is where I want to land. Our political leaders, including the president, in fact, starting from the president, cannot continue to behave as if this is a normal thing. And those of us, you know, citizens, we cannot also behave as if this is also normal. Voices must be raised. Voices must be raised. We don't need to wait until it comes to your door. We have to raise our voices. And then our politicians must stop this lackadaisical attitude. There is a crisis of fear. There's a crisis in this country today. And things cannot continue the way it is. I mean, look at what some of the politicians are, you know, I'll make this point and then please come in.
Yeah.
Look at the games that some of the politicians are even playing. Look at the irresponsible and rascally behavior of Fayoshi. Calling out, you know, the governor, saying the governor is responsible. Where is the evidence? What does that do to help the situation? And then look at Makinde himself. Makinde has not, why hasn't he seen the president? Now, so Makinde is going one way, the federal government is going the other. They are not coming together even to present themselves to the people. This is not a time for games. We need politicians to put their heads together. Please play down the politics. Play down your job security. Play up national security.
This conversation about it being politically motivated, and you alluded to that in one of the when the former Ekiti State governor said it on, and I remember that she was aghast when you said it.
She actually pressed him.
Yes. So the concept about it being politically motivated, and that is, oh, it's a year to the elections. They will do all these things to make the president look bad, and I can imagine that that is what the president is hearing every day. Oh, Mr. President, it's your opponents. It's the opposition. They will be doing all these things so that you can look bad. Even if that's the situation, how should the president himself be responding? Even if the insecurity, even if the kidnappings are politically motivated, how should he be handling that?
Yeah, and that goes to the point of the kind of people that a leader, a president, a principal surrounds himself with.
Yeah.
One of the problems, and I've said this publicly, and I'm going to say it again, one of the problems of our president today is that he has managed to surround himself with second class, third level, 10th, 11 kind of people. And that is a problem. That is a problem because he's not getting the kind of counsel that he needs. So for people we're talking about that kind of a rubbish, that is your political enemies and opponents, who cares? Who cares who are doing it? Whoever is doing it is a criminal. Do you understand, Kela? Whoever is doing it is a criminal. And the state exists to go after criminal and bring them to justice. That is all we care. We don't want to hear, people telling the president or saying it just like Fayose behaved irresponsibly on TV. That's not our business. Our business is that there is a crime, there should be punishment.
Whether it's by your political opponents or by terrorist organizations around the world, does it matter?
That is why the president is called the commander-in-chief. There is a reason why that title is fixed to the president. That is the commander-in-chief. There shouldn't be anybody that the president cannot tackle for the security of a country. If the president...
In fact, I'm just reading a message. Somebody, you know how we're on this show. People keep sending messages while we're talking. Somebody just sent a message and said, even if it is your political opponents that are fighting you, isn't it an opportunity for you to decimate them?
Absolutely.
It's an opportunity for you. So why does it look like when they tell us your police, then it feels that we should leave it alone? It's an opportunity for you to now pull them out and embarrass them and lock them up and make sure that they face the full wrath of the law and show them to the Nigerian people.
Absolutely. So it just speaks to the sometimes, I don't want to say complete, but it's getting close to complete and total irresponsibility of some of our political leaders. It's just completely, the kind of people who have risen up, for the most part. And why we are saying that, look, we have a president who has a pedigree in terms of governance. Mr. President, sit up. Sit up. This is going down under your watch. Don't care for what the people are flattering you, what they are saying. This is going down. Nigeria's security crisis is getting worse. Yes, you are not responsible for how it started. But guess what, Mr. President? You are now in charge. You have to sit up. We need your A game, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. We need your A game, and we need it now. That's the point. That's the point we need to make.
I think Ayo has a few questions for you. Go ahead, Ayo.
Thank you, Kayla. Mr. Akande, I'm really, glad that, we are talking about this, this way. Having covered, being a journalist for as long as you have, more than 30 years, definitely you have seen quite a bit. But I'm also glad that having experienced the presidency, you can give us an idea of what is happening. I remember that under the Buhari government, a good number of times, at least 2 or 3 that I remember correctly, Governor Otom of Benue State at the time kept going to the presidencies that the president should intervene in whatever challenges he was having. And I also remember that the president, in an interview that we had with him, said he told him to go back home to go solve his problem. I don't know what you think about that. You may want to speak to that because it will seem like even this president is saying the same thing, that the governors need to sit up. Now, when President Buhari gave that instruction, perhaps he had an expectation or maybe he had some information. It doesn't exclude the federal government, but realistically speaking, you just said now that Governor Makinde hasn't really gone out. Oh, by the way, let's be clear. When you say Makinde, please let it be Governor Makinde so that everybody knows it's not me. Having said that, you said that he hasn't stepped out to go see the president, and there was a high-powered visit to Oyo State, and the governor was not there. I understand that the Commissioner for Education in Oyo State was there at the time. So, what exactly should be the preventive measures of state governments? Today, it is Oyo State. Yesterday, previously, it had been another state. Even it had happened in Kwara State, in Ilorin, and there are those who say that these ones came in through Kogi and all of that. So what should be the conversation that the state governments must be having among themselves or even among their own teams now? Because every time these things happen, we call the federal government.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to sound as if I am underrating, what the Oyo State government is doing in this particular instance, and to say that, yes, state governments have a lot to do. I mean, there is a security vote that the state governors get, and I know how some of the governors, manage those resources, especially how to quell, problems in the community, who to sort out, So I imagine, I don't have the details, I imagine that Makinde is doing a lot of that. What has to happen in this instance is that we must show the people, both the state and the federal government, that there is synergy. Now, ultimately, because of our current security architecture, it is still the federal government that has the final say. We still have a federal police. We don't have a state police. The military resources are under the control of the president. Okay? So ultimately, we will, talk about what the president ought to do. But the state government, they are also not absorbed. You are not saying that the state government ought to be sitting on their horse. And I don't say that Makinde is sitting on his horse, but Makinde needs to eat the humble pie and go see President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. The man was in Lagos up until 2 days ago. Makinde is in Ibadan. Why have the two of them not met? I imagine that even the president ought to even order him to come up so that we can present to the people a common unified front. I mean, you had the president or the federal government sending a delegation of Agbada wearing people like Bajabia Mila and Nuhu Ribadu go to the place. For what use? The people don't need Baja or Nuhu Ribadu. That's not the people they elected. If the president can't go himself, then he needs to be in touch with the governor. The governor and the president needs to be talking and showing us that there is coordination. I imagine that there is coordination under the wraps, but we need to have a situation where all the political forces are aligned, emphasizing that there's a crisis and that we must go out of the box to deal with the situation. We have gotten to the situation where the president ought to be considering declaring state of emergency constitutionally, not the one that he declared and said that I'm declaring emergency on security. That has no constitutional power. We are getting to the point that the president needs to know that we must go all out to destroy these terrorists and to be bold enough to go after their sponsors. Like Pastor Adeboye has said, we have to go after their sponsors. And the president is the commander-in-chief. Is the president afraid of individuals? I guess he should not. It is a tough call. But excuse me, sir, that is why you are the president and the commander-in-chief. Get the job done, Mr. President. Let me say it again. We need President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to give us his A game. That's what we need.
All right, well, there's another question around that, because this is something that goes all over the nation. A good number of times, and I know you must have interviewed people who have told you the same thing, that we have porous borders. In other words, even our interstate borders are pretty much, just one, community. Just you cross one step and then you are in the other. No lines, no fences, nothing, most of the time. Now, we have the National Forest Security Services, We also have, in the southwest of Nigeria, there was a lot of noise made about Amotekun and other, forces like that. In your opinion, do you think these are gaps left to follow? We also understand that they are supposed to be, because I know that local governments have their own security meetings and all of that. Perhaps we are leaving some gaps unattended to, about this issue. I hear, what everyone is saying about the president, but the president clearly is not going to be the one that is going to get a gun or whatever it is. He still has to sit on the systems that are in place, be it at the federal or at the state levels. I've also heard, I'm sure you have heard, an activist in Oyo State, Sunday Igboho, saying, look, just give us power to go and do what we need to do, and we'll go ahead and do it. Do you think those interventions might be able to help prevent? Because my concern is the prevention. All these, we heard yesterday that something else happened. I think it was in Ibadan yesterday. So what exactly, are the gaps in your opinion that you think we have allowed to come in with all these Amotekun, forest guards, and forest security and all of that, and then these things are still happening all over the place?
Yes, I mean there are gaps, and there are things that Amotekun could have done, to take charge of the environment, of the situation. I must say this: we are missing the kind of leadership at the state level, such as we had under Arakuni Rotimi Akeredolu, big time. We are missing that kind of fervor, that kind of determination. Rotimi Akeredolu went against, confronted federal authorities several times on how and why Amotekun ought to be sufficiently empowered. I know that he confronted the Attorney General, the same Malami guy, who is now dealing with his own problems. When that one was talking about constitution, he confronted. Now, we are missing that, and that's a big gap in terms of even, taking charge of, taking personal responsibility about the security and the safety of your people. We are missing that, even in the Southwest today, and certainly across the country. That is one gap. The other and more fundamental gap is that this government, this current administration, they have had 3 years now. 1, 2, 3. 3 years now that they have been in government, and we have not moved the needle about state police. We have not. But we have moved the needle. We've gotten tax reform done. We've changed the national anthem. Are those the more compelling things? When people are dying, children are being abducted, teachers are being beheaded across the country. So I have not seen the kind of bullish attitude from the president, from the National Assembly about these things. They just keep talking about these platitudes. We have gone past that. Why is it that in 3 years you can't have the police? These are the gaps, these are the major gaps. These are the major gaps.
Despite the president pushing for it.
Well, he didn't push for it like he pushed for tax reform.
He should ramp up his pushing mechanism.
Yeah, absolutely.
The security chiefs are coming to my mind right now. And remember when Christopher Musa was made Minister of Defense and we were so excited, you remember?
Yeah.
We were so excited when Christopher Musa was made Minister of Defense because we said, look, this man is going to bring that fervor into... But I do see that the military is doing things. Just so that we don't demoralize our troops, and so they don't think that we don't see what you're doing. We do see what you're doing. In fact, I'm on the hard copy this week. That's what we're going to be talking about. We'll start off with some of the, at least for the past 1 week, there have been a lot of movements.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
A lot of arrests by the military. A lot of camps have been decimated. A lot of people, even suppliers, fuel suppliers, and they're using a lot of technology. We see all of that happening. But that sense of being unsafe has started to eat into the Nigerian now. Let's talk about what this means for the Tinubu administration, even as he continues the politicking into wanting us to give him another mandate for another 4 years. Is this going to affect him in your view?
It's not looking good at all. Now, those who have an eye for political permutation and punditry say that, look, I mean, the opposition, they don't get themselves together, so clearly there is no compelling competition, on these issues.
Yes.
But regardless of that, it's not looking good on the president at all. It's not looking good at all. There's no way to dodge this thing, with the president coming out looking good, except he steps up his game and steps it up in a fundamental, significant way. Right. He has appointed a Homeland Security advisor. Where is that, Mr. President?
What's happening there? What's that office?
Haven't you, mobilized the person?
Yes.
What is it doing? Tell us about that.
We'll continue this conversation, but I have to thank you so much, Mr. Akande, for being with us on the program.
Thank you so much.
And that's our show this morning. Thank you all very much for letting us be a part of your morning. I'm Kayla. We've got Business Morning at the top of the hour. Stay safe.
Well, just keep Nigeria in your mind. It's not all gloom and doom. There is boom. Business Morning is on the hour. As Kayla said, I'm Ayo Makine. Enjoy the rest of your day.